Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. Today's the day we've all been waiting for since we began the Just Say Boo Fort Worth Fabric Studios Mystery Quilt, and it's putting it together now that we have all of our pieces made. Normally I would have the whole thing on my design wall, but instead this time around I'm going to lay each row down, and then if we have to mark it I will explain it to you, and then we'll sew it row by row starting with the top. And I have it set up here on the other end of the table, so let's take a look at it. On the top left, we're going to have two of our bats. And they are reaching for the skies, I guess you could say. And then we're going to have two stars, one of each color. So that is my layout. Here is where we're going to be marking to avoid taking our wing tip off, as well as down here. So we're going to be watching this right here. And we won't have to do any kind of flipping. Now we're going to make sure that you nestle your seams along here. And then on the next piece that we're going to do, we're going to be concerned with this point here. And then that's it, because we have a solid going here as well as a solid going here on this. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to mark on the other side of this. I'll show you how I'm going to mark it. And then we will go ahead and set it up, and I'll show you that. Now remember, when we mark this, we cannot see this. So we have to turn it like that so that we can see our little spot there that we're going to be marking. Now, if you have ironed yours the other directions, yours will be showing. Mine is not showing. Therefore, I'm going to compensate for it. And this is how I'm marking it. And that's it for that one. That was the top left. I'm going to pull this one over, flip it over, do the same exact thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin the two bats, which are facing upward, to each other. Now, not only do we have to watch the part that we have marked, but you also need to go and nestle it. And in this case, as you can see, I have gone that direction with it. So I'm going to have to go this way, or else I'm going to have an issue. Or I can open it. And I don't know if I want to open it, because that puts way too much on the other side. I'm debating. I'm going to turn this one to the left and that one to the right. Let's see if I can get it nestled there, because otherwise it's going to be way too much. So I'm going to do it this way. I want to make sure my nestling is happening here so my colors aren't off. And then pin it. And this is what happens when you end up turning it one way or the other. If your project doesn't tell you which way to be turning this, you don't really know one way or the other. So that's the way I'm going to do it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to nestle down here. And every spot I'm going to nestle, and then I'm going to mark. Alright, let's get these two bats sewn together. And I'm doing this the same way I've been doing it before. So it's the same, well, it's a brand new needle because I changed my needle out every now and then, but it's the white fabric, the 2.5 inch length. Did I have that? Oh, I just did a boo-boo. Let's start over. I don't know what I was thinking. All right, I'm going to start about in the middle of this. Well, I was going to mow my grass this morning, but it looks like it's going to rain. So it was a toss-up between that or it was piecing, and I thought, I think I'm going to put my quilt together instead. Of course, my quilting and sewing always wins out over mowing the grass. What I did was, to get this organized before I sewed it, I went ahead and I took my blocks based on my picture, which you guys will have, and I pinned each row together. So I had 4 little piles. And so while I'm sewing this first row, I have my second row already set up to get pinned on the other side of the table here. So now that I'm done with doing this piece, which I had it in my head, it was all on one side, and I don't know why I thought that. But now I've got to flip it over to do the other side. Put my needle down where I've already sewn, And I'm just going to come on over. Okay, so this has lots of pins in it. But for some reason, my fabric on the top wants to overhang from the bottom. So that is the reason for it. And there's no nestling, let's see, on this at all. And so it's going to look kind of weird to you, because I thought down there at the bottom when I started, where I have my half square triangle, that it would be nestled, but it's not nestled. So I thought it was going to be off, but I looked at the picture and that is correct. It does not need to be nestled. Alrighty, so this is where the seam doesn't match another seam. This square is a little bit smaller than this square. Now we're on to row 2, and this is going to be the only place. Now this is just like before. It's not going to match this here, but you're going to be worried about your point, so that's what you're going to want to mark. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pin these two, and then I'm going to pin these two here, and then I put it together with this one. That's what I did with the first one. We're going to do it with the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. Alrighty. One piece of matching up on this one, just like before. Now I'm going to go ahead and just grab this other one and chain stitch it. Now we're finishing up our second row here, attaching the pieces. This is going together really well and fast. Nothing to match up or anything on this section here. Now in row 3, it looks like the only place we're going to have to do anything to is this little nestling right here. Otherwise everything goes together real smooth. So I've got it laid out here on the table. Let me take there we go. Like that. And this is the way this one goes. And like I said, we're going to pin them in twos and then put them together. Okay, I spoke too soon. It did not nestle by the time I got done pinning it. It was off just a little bit, which is fine on this quilt top here. They're not all nestling where you think they would. It looked like it did before I had it pinned, but once I put a pin on each end and then went ahead and started pinning them, it didn't match up. Not that it didn't match, but it didn't match up at all. Of course, there's no tips or anything that we have to worry about on this. I went ahead and I laid out the next one, and it has one spot that will get nestled and a couple spots that we'll watch the tips and we'll mark those. And that's on that main pumpkin that we got. Alright, now we're putting the two pieces of the third row together, and that'll complete the third row. And then we'll start on our fourth row. Alright, let's take a look at the next row. Starting on our fourth row now. And this is what you should have laid out. Now, we are going to nestle this one here. Right here. There's no nestling on this strip here because this is just a solid. There's no seams on it. Then when we come to here, even though this is a straight seam, we have to watch this tip and this tip. So that's the two that we're going to mark. I'm back. I didn't realize we have to watch this and mark it, and this down here as well. So I'll just flip that over and mark it first, and then I'll attach it. Alrighty, so we're going to start on this third row. Excuse me, fourth row. We did the third row just now. Fourth row. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out the top two rows and then the next two rows, and then when we got those done, we'll pin it and go that direction. So I think that's the best way to break it up. Okay, a light went out on me, so I cut that one off so I could figure out where it was. But the bulbs haven't burnt out, so I'm not quite sure which one went out on me. I turned two back on, but... Okay, now we're going to attach the two to complete this one row. I have the first two rows laid out on the table, because I'm going to see where I need to pay attention. So I'll need to mark on this side. These will nestle. These should nestle. I'll have to mark on this side. And as they're looking along here, don't worry if they don't need to nestle, because you can see how far apart they are. That'll need to nestle. That's one square to another. This one here will have to nestle. And then there's nothing to be marking here. So our marks are up here where these bats. So here's a piece of the wing, here's a piece, and there's a piece. So we're going to have 3 marks from row 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and mark those. Now here are the last 2 rows, and all you're looking for. So every time you come up against a square, which this is 1 square here, and that's 1 square, then it has to be nestled here. Otherwise, going along here, this is going to have to be marked. On this one here, there's a little bit of more nestling. So we'll be doing here, there, there, there. Won't need it here. And then we'll have to, here's where our block starts. And we'll have to nestle it here because these are where our 2 strips are. And then we're fine along here. No markings or anything until you get down here. And now you'll have, this will be nestled here. That'll be marked, both sides of these. Remember how we do them. I'll go ahead and I'll show you, because we want to make sure we don't take any of our tips off either one of these. And they both going to get marked. So I'm going to show you how I do this marking, because remember now, this is on both pieces, so they both have marks. So take your pen and put it in on this side, and where you want it to come out is right above where the tip is, right here. Let's see if I can get it. So it comes out right there, so it won't take your tip off. Then you want to take it and stick it on the other side, right above the tip, like that. Now, you can do it freehand like this, or you can take it and stick it in a pin cushion, which will hold it for you. Okay? So if you don't have somebody else's hands and you need help, this would be the perfect thing to do. It'll set still, and then you can take this and you can pin it on this side. If I can get it in there, like that. Same thing here. And I'm going to try to get it in this fabric right there. And then take it out. And now that's still straight, so that is set and it hasn't moved any. Now you can play with it and get it pinned correctly. So I would pin it right here because I want to make sure I have it in there. But I can't go over towards here because this will flip up on me. And I have to be able to make the needle come in and grab a hold of that before I take my pins out. We're going to do the same thing on the other end over here. And we'll pin these, but those will be individual because they don't get nestled or anything. Now on this one, in my case here, I have it flipped over. So I don't have it open so I can't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it. And based on my markings, I'm going to stick it in here. And come out above the top just like that. And then go ahead, put it above the top on this one. And the goal is to try to get it as straight as you can. So it is, the pin is going straight down. Now if you don't want to use the pin cushion, then this is what you do. I put my fingers on both sides like this because I'm trying to hold it straight. Okay, like that. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put a pin in. And it's going between my fingers like this. And on the other side. Then take this pin out. Lay it flat, and then you go ahead and finish pinning. And that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll make sure that when I sew it, I stay right on the line or towards the edge of the fabric, not inward, outward. Okay? That should take care of it. And then we'll take a look at it when it's finished. But I've already went ahead and I attached the other piece so I can chain stitch these. That's it. That's what I wanted to show you, that little bit right there. Now we're putting the two together. And like I said, I'm going to start on this other end first because it's only got one mark. So let me just mark that. Now keep in mind, you don't have to lock this unless you want to lock it. But since I'm going to come over it again, I shouldn't have to do any locking on it.
Would you say that's personal preference, Miss Kathy?
Yes. Thank you, Megan. So that's it. Now I'm going to turn it back over. This is because now I have pieces marked on this side. And I have to be able to see them.
I meant, is that why you sewed that one on that side first?
Only because there was one. That's why I sewed it. There was just the one. And there's two marked on this side. And here's where I sewed before, so I'm staying right on the line. So that's almost like having a double seam.
Which is like locking it.
And I really need to put my needle on this side. My pen, excuse me, to hold that down.
And we're being very careful.
Now I have the top half and the bottom half, and all we're going to have to do is mark this one spot along that entire seam. And all we have to do is make sure that we nestle our individual blocks. And that's it. Let's put that together. So I spoke too soon. Actually, there's one here. So that's up here at the top. And then the one that I found here at the very beginning. So I went ahead and I did a little bit of pinning here and a little bit of pinning there. And so I will start at this end first, and then I'll stop about here, and then I'll flip it over and do the other side. I have my camera backed up a bit because of all this fabric that I have on the side. Doing these strips, I went ahead and knocked down my stitch length. And I just knocked it down to 2 because I've been doing it in 2.5. I clipped off the selvage, and then I just put my foot right next to the line on my fabric, and I sewed the 2 pieces, and I'm doing it straight across. And the reason I'm doing that is that these are bones on this fabric, and so it's like stripes. So that's the way I wanted it to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my fabric first. Now this goes on the right side and the left side. Alrighty, so I went ahead and I pinned it and I marked it. This is what I've done. I'm going to go ahead, and if you notice, as you come along here, all of a sudden I have an X here. My pin's upside down here and here. That means I have markings on this side here. So let me flip it over here so you can see it. So here's the marking right there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to only do this area right here, between here and here. Then I'm going to flip it back over, come up here to the beginning, and start up here, and go ahead and come down, go over what I've done right in here, keep on going until I've got the whole thing done on this side, because this is where all my markings are, up here at the top. And I want to get all that taken care of first, and then just go on down. Now before I do this, because I want to change stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my I'm going to put my 3rd and 4th rows together and pin them and mark them so that I can change stitch both these sets, so that when I get done I'll only have one more row to put together, which will make the entire thing before I put any kind of borders on it. I only need this one marked on this side, and then what I do is I've already taken my selvage off here, so I line it up off the end here. I'll lay it underneath here like this, all the way down the length, just to get it started. When I'm up here, I start up at the top. You'll have 6 of these strips. So the first thing I did was I took 2 of them and sewed them together for the left side and 2 for the right side. And then all I do is just go down here and pin. And I made sure that the part that I sewed is at the bottom. And I'm going to try to make it even Now, of course, if I've cut this strip wrong for length, then I'm going to be in trouble. But it really doesn't make a difference. I mean, it all gets hidden eventually. Nobody's going to know whether you did it right or wrong, unless you feel like you did it wrong, and then you got an issue with it. That's different than other people looking at it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this part here, which is where I've marked it. And then I'll go ahead and I'll pin up here. Now you don't want to pull this too tight because you want to make sure this fits correctly. If you pull it too tight, you'll have a bow in it or it'll get wavy on you. And just go all the way down and do both sides, the right and the left. Don't do the top and the bottom yet. Alrighty, so here we go on our first side. You'll have this sewn on and that sewn on, and all I do is put my ruler up against here all along the fabric and then cut straight off, and that's it. And I do it on all sides, and in this case you're going to have two sides that have it. And be sure and lay it correct. You want to lay it opened like that. Now you don't want to cut on this side because you can't see this fabric down here. You don't see that. That's hidden. So make sure you turn it so that you can see it, so that when you go to cut it, you don't accidentally cut that fabric. Just lay it out like this. You can iron it if you like, which this should be ironed already. Just like this, and then cut it off. And that's in this side here, this type of fabric. I do it real loosely and I do it far apart because there is nothing to be matching up. So I just pay attention, take my time, and that's it. And then if it gets loose on me, I'll just tighten it up a little bit and move my pins. I went ahead and I went down to a 2.0 while I stitch this. If you're following along, this is the very last strip to put on here now. It's all pinned. Okay, there it is. It's all completed. It is beautiful. I love that cat there in the corner like that, and the two pumpkins. Thank you very much, Fort Worth Fabric Studios, for giving me the opportunity to make this Just Say Boo quilt. Thanks everybody for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you'd like, make a comment, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.